Howdy Heroes Hearth, this is Kyle Fergusson. I'm sitting down today with Simplicity Legacy, who is currently twitching the camera all over the place, which is fabulous. We're actually going to change up our view for this one, but welcome Legacy. Before we even get going, what's going on with your camera at the start of this match?
Yeah, basically a lot of times just to like keep my wrist and things warm, my hand, I'll like kind of fidget around, so you can kind of ignore that. Do that a lot of times when there's like downtime, nothing really going on, just to like keep myself warm. But
awesome. Well, for everyone at home, they know that you have a very busy camera, but we'll be watching in a locked camera view here. And you're playing some Deckard in a very interesting matchup. There's double support Deathwing. What was the team thinking about going into this? Does it affect your Deckard play? What's kind of the plan here?
yeah, so basically coming in, the way the draft worked out, the other team first picked Uther. The way they kind of had it form made it seem like it was going to be a double support kind of composition, which it ended up being. And so one thing that's good against double support is obviously healing reduction. And so there's a few heroes that have good healing reduction. I think one thing that comes to mind probably for a lot of people is Ana with her grenade. Another thing that may not come to mind as easy with people is like a Malthael healing reduction, things like that. But one of the things we really like to play is Deckard with Emerald.
So right now, we've got the start of the game. Your first talent pickup is Sapphire. This is a increase of damage and the slow. So you can only put one gem in a Heroic Cube at a time. So why grab this with the plan to get Emerald later on?
Yeah, so I'll say this is kind of the default build I go to in terms of the 1 through 7. The Sapphire on level 1, the Shield on level 4, and Emerald on level 7. I'll say from a build standpoint, sometimes I will shake this up and go with the increased spell power on 1 and Ruby on 4. It kind of depends on how both compositions look, but I'll say when I go that, it's mostly driven by the enemy team's composition, and a lot of that is driven by how many like melee heroes that they have. Like if they have 4+ melees where it seems like it can get a lot of value, it's something I might look towards.
That field study?
Correct, and Ruby. So I kind of look at it as like those being a pairing and Sapphire shielding being kind of a pairing, and almost always take Emerald.
So what does the shield bring here that you needed?
The shield is just extra burst mitigation. So Deckard's general healing isn't, as high as some of the others in terms of burst, but the shield helps in some of those situations.
I think it's very easy to pass on the fact or ignore the fact that you have very good potion aim throughout this game, and what an asset that is to your team.
Yes. So one thing just to talk about there, general thing when it comes to camping that seems, I'll say, kind of obvious to me, but may not be to others, is Deckard has like basically permanent 10 armor whenever he's near somebody. So whenever I'm camping with my DPS, I'll generally try to be the one tanking it, since you're going to take less damage.
Oh, that's a cool point. I like that a lot. And you do, it seems like you're mounted more than the average Deckard, but it is obvious that you are making sure you're keeping your trait going. The Fortitude of the Faithful, giving that 10 armor, but also basic abilities to recharge 50% faster, and later on you even invest more into this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this point in the game, pretty much early game, we knew that facing a double support comp and a Deathwing comp, both very strong, so kind of had the idea of just giving the first shrine and defending. So that's why the no contest there from us.
And you do spend quite a bit of time mounted there, whereas the normal, and maybe Storm League Deckard, people start typing, get off your mount, throw potions all the time. What was the idea with the mounting and your potion layout in these various fights?
Yeah, so from a general standpoint, you'll see most of the time, unless the potion's needed pretty much immediately, I'll be tossing them in a more, I'll say, conservative fashion. So behind the hero that will most likely need it, or like on that last one where I'm expecting our Diablo is going to take the Punisher jump, toss a few potions there in case they try to do any kind of burst play over the wall off the jump.
Does the shield stack?
No, so it's like basically the expectation is that the shield when they tank it, the Diablo is full health, so they'll take the jump, the potion will land on them, and then basically as they start to take damage, they'll lose the shielding. The next pot will be there, so they can kind of continue to grab them all.
6 seconds is a pretty long time in Heroes of the Storm for some shielding, so that holds up pretty well. Now, at level 7 you grabbed the Emerald. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but increase the damage of the next Project Q by 100%. I guess that's the same for Sapphire. Okay, so gems just increase damage in that way. Healing reduced by 75%. So this is to deal with Cassia? Is that the main thing that's going to be getting healed over there?
So I'll say ideal situation is we have some type of burst blow up potential and you're emeralding the Brightwing teleport or the Z onto somebody to reduce that big burst heal.
Yeah.
That's kind of the, ideal situation for the usage.
And you would have time to see that load up, therefore time to counter it, much like that on a grenade.
Mm-hmm.
You got the stay a while and listen here. Is there any goal beyond this just being the preferred pick?
So, I'd say stay a while is generally the better ult. I think there's definitely situations where Lornado finds value, but from a general perspective, there's good combos that you can do off of stay a while. So, for instance, here we have Mephisto with Durance of Hate, so that's definitely really easy setup for Durance, as well as their big combo is to entomb a target and then, Cassia and Deathwing put all their damage into him. Obviously, you can't sleep Deathwing, but Lornado doesn't push Deathwing either, so the damage mitigation aspect is, hopefully if someone does get entombed that, you can sleep, the Cassie and things like that and potentially try to help save that person.
And you guys have the Tychus here, which is a popular counter pick in all leagues for the Deathwing, but I also find something like Mephisto can really just own him in the fact that he has a good chance to hit him all the time.
Yeah, it's something where Mephisto, I think both against Deathwing and against double support, has really good value. He's someone that just outputs a lot of damage, and also a lot of supports, if you look at like an Ana or something like that, are playing in the backline and they're really hard to put damage on, but Mephisto can blink in and kind of do a lot of AoE damage. So I think Mephisto's good against both of those aspects of their comp.
Now, being that a team that you've played with a while now, you're pretty far in the back, you're not helping out with the lane clear. My Storm League brain says, Deckard needs to do more. What's going on? Are you terrified? Are you nervous for your life in these situations and these positions?
No, the big thing with Deckard is his main abilities are really, really good for teamfight engage. So you'll see it where sometimes I am using those for, you can see the sleep there with the Durance. But
yeah.
A lot of the times, early game, you will see me use kind of the cube for wave clear. But a lot of times later game, we have Tychus with grenade, we have Mephisto, really more being conservative with those cooldowns for, the ability to have them in case a team fight comes up.
That's an interesting note. With Hogger going around, basically, it's not really a double soak classic, it's just soaking whatever's available with pretty much impunity. And then the lane clear of a Melting Point Tychus. You don't even need to interact with them.
Yeah, pretty much. Our whole kind of game plan and coming in, I mentioned, their strength early game. We really knew that for us, and Mephisto getting 16 was something that we were really focused on in terms of kind of scaling into the late game. So you'll see a lot of the pacificity from us, just clearing the waves, getting all our camps out, things like that. But really, unless they step way out of position, like I think the Brightwing kill early on, we're not really looking for too much actively trying to find a fight ourselves.
Sure. I know it's probably a bit of a caster trick. Certainly, you got to keep it entertaining, but looking at it from your point of view now, it doesn't feel like you guys were ever behind. It was just a tactical choice.
Yeah, it's something where that was the game plan coming in, is we know that if we take early fights that, we don't win them, we will then just put ourselves in a worse position for late game.
And you just hold on to those abilities. It's crazy to see how much you are respecting the enemy team on top of maintaining your trait. I don't think most Deckards take advantage of that as much as you do.
Yeah, I think, like I said, the real important thing is, having that emerald for the Brightwing. That's the big thing that we're generally looking for. Or if, we have a big engagement, it's generally pretty safe to, throw out Sapphire to help with it, things like that. But, really trying to make sure that those big cooldowns are up for when the engage happens. And Deckard is someone that can help with engage, so mentioned Sapphire earlier. Sapphire is a really strong, I'll say, help for the tank to be able to help with engages. Being able to slow the entire enemy team, root them, helps with their engage potential. So a lot of times if, something like a Garrosh that could struggle with engaging into the enemy team comp, something like a Deckard with Sapphire can be really helpful for that.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, you would have the poke to dismount him. It's snappy and fast enough you'd hit him. And then a big ol' slow to maintain his area. We got some catching up to do here. Ancient Blessings. This does have a cooldown on it. You give everyone a buff for 8 seconds, but it can only occur once per second. So it's not actually turbo juicing the Tychus.
Yeah, so the main thing I'll say, so level 13, there's really 2 talents. There's Big Pots and there's Blessings. Blessings is generally the pick in probably 80% plus of games, in my opinion. There's actually another game, can't remember if it was this series or the series before, but that I took Big Pots because it seemed better in that situation. But really, what I'd say it comes down to is if you're playing more offensively or defensively. And so to me, when we're looking at a Diablo and a Hogger and Tychus and really a lot of heroes that are looking to dive in and have faster fights, get kills like that, having that extra burst to be able to lock down and secure kills is pretty big.
Also gives a little bit of healing, but you're more thinking about the overall just damage throughput that now a support, the healer, can bring to this game.
Yep.
And level 16, you got Safety in Numbers, which is understandable given how much you've been respecting and using this. But tell me a little bit about this talent compared to something more aggressive like Scroll of Stone Curse or even Herodric's Staff.
Yeah, so I'll say I actually prefer taking Herodric's Staff. I take that in probably 75% or more of my games. And this, as kind of mentioned before, their big combo is, the Leoric Entombing into, the Deathwing Breath. And really, once you're inside there, not much you can really do. Looking at their enemy team comp, they have a Deathwing in front line, with Uther and Leoric. You're not really going to get too much value out of the stun. So for me, in the chance that I'm the one getting entombed, being able to try and survive through that burst with that extra armor is kind of the big thing with that talent.
And you did just incur one of those wraths with the Entomb there, so it makes sense that your first thought was, well, let's work on dealing with the way we would lose this game.
Exactly.
So as the game starts to look like they're pressuring in, but now you've got your talents, what's sort of the game plan from here? Tychus is pretty deep, but you can see everybody on the enemy side. He's actually looking to trade a little bit. Anything on the Deckard front, though, that you are now changing?
Not really anything from the Deckard front specifically. I'll say from just a team aspect, why we have the Tychus kind of split off soaking is, we see the top shrine is the next shrine, and we have that fort now pretty much taken care of. And, our whole goal was to play for 16s, play for 20s, and we know that with this upcoming shrine, this will be a good spot for us to fight. And, if we can secure that, that can really, we can look at keep potentially game. So our main goal here is, getting that level 20, making sure we don't die here, hopefully defending the keep, but, making sure we're able to get that team fight. As far as the Deckard play specifically, my goal here is just to kind of try and reveal the invisible friends people. You can see I kind of threw a cube out there at that invisible Leoric, but just making sure that we're not caught off guard by anything, and if they do engage, being in a position where I can either sleep, or if we find a favorable engage, be ready to follow up.
It seems like you've started delaying potions, holding them. Are you waiting for something, or do you just have all the potions you could possibly want in the exact positions you want them in?
Yeah, it's more of having them where I want them. So I'll say as a general rule, early game, if you don't have 5 potions out, you probably should be throwing potions. You're capped at 5, so you want to make sure you're using them and setting up, on things like shrines, or for instance, there on that fort defense, there were 5 potions laid out right in front of that keep. So basically, kind of preemptively seeing where the next fight's going to be, having potions laid out in advance can be really big for team fights.
Tell me about your level 20 pick here. We've invested in quite a few gems, but no perfect gems is picked. You go with Respect the Elderly.
Yeah, so I think something where sleep, kind of just talking through how majority of the time sleep's taken, I think the silence and blind for this team, I think more specifically the silence is really effective. If you look at their comp being double support, they're going to be grouped up a lot, and also they have those big heal cooldowns such as D-Shield. If you're able to get that sleep off on their team prior to them being able to D-Shield the Cassia or the Brightwing, whoever it may be, that that can really help secure that kill.
Makes absolute sense. And since you're holding your gems, particularly your Emerald, for these really specific situations like the Brightwing teleport, why cast it more often in the first place?
Exactly.
But you are in.
I will say that. Oh, I was just gonna say I do think that Perfect Gems is definitely a viable pick. I think having an Emerald on a shorter cooldown could be good if they're more of, I'll say, the longer term team fights where you're gonna get multiple cubes off. But you can see how the team fights have gone this game. Really, you're not going to get more than one. You might get a second one off in a team fight because of how fast the team fights are going. So that's also another reason why the sleep upgrade would get more value here.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, these have been very fast team fights. In fact, as this game has now reached level 20, seems like you're getting in there for some auto attacks now.
Yeah, I think especially once you hit 13, you want to make sure that not only your allies, but you're also getting value out of Ancient Blessings, because it is quite a significant damage boost.
I think one of the big things that's kind of developed over the course of this game is your mana management. I am always seeing Deckard's hearthing, me included, when I play him, and your control, your noticing of how you actually are full up on potions, you have them where you want, and I guess it looks like the safety in numbers actually gives you mana regeneration as well.
Yeah, I think you know, it kind of goes along with you know, what I was saying earlier about, you know, holding a lot of cooldowns. I think, you know, there's the, you know, potential, and you see people and wanting to just kind of like spam cubes out, but really trying to, you know, utilize them when they're gonna have value, not just kind of using the cooldown to use it.
Makes perfect sense. You're just walking around maintaining that improved version of your Fortitude of the Faithful. And I mean, at this point, things are looking really good. You got yourselves a good push behind this. The Punisher is active. Looking at the enemy team, I mean, any concerns here, or are you guys just marching for victory?
We know that right now we have pretty good health on the Punisher. Pretty sure we're going to be able to end here. Definitely does hit a pretty big fear here, but I think at this point we're, you know, pretty confident that we should be able to end here, especially considering, you know, Mephisto and Tychus, Tychus having Odin, Mephisto having the level 20 Mimic, being able to do a lot of core damage that felt pretty safe here that it was going to be able to end.
Yeah, that's not something that can be downstated, just how much sustained core damage a Mephisto can do in the late game. It doesn't seem right for a spellcaster, at least in our normal sort of sense of drafting. So is this a build you would recommend to people who are just getting into the character, or do you have a more training wheels option for hopeful Deckards?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think there's a few different builds that I'll tend to go. I'll say, you know, generally from, you know, 1 through 7, I kind of view it as 2 different builds of either going, you know, the Sapphire, the Shielding, and Emerald, or going the increased spell power, Ruby, Emerald. I think 7, some people will also sometimes go into like damage reduction. I think just in high level play, Emerald seems to get an incredible amount of value, and a lot of things, and the way, you know, our, you know, comp is built is around playing with that Emerald in a team fight. So I could see that potentially being different for, you know, Storm League and for newer Deckard players. I'd say stay a while, listen for any new Deckard players. I would definitely try that out, get practice with it, because I think it can really be a difference maker in team fights. As far as, you know, 13, 16, 20, you know, like I said, I think Blessings or Big Pots are both viable. You know, really, if you're new to the hero, you're new to the character, you know, I would say, you know, try them both out. But you know, while Big Pots can seem like it's huge value in certain situations, definitely don't discount the burst increase that Ancient Blessings can give you. So and then safety numbers, I'll say I actually rarely pick, like I mentioned before. I really like the stun that you get on 16, especially you know, if you're facing heroes with good dive, you know, thinking of heroes like Gurel that like to, you know, jump around on your back line, heroes like, you know, Hogger jumping in, being able to stun, you know, Hogger, you know, when he comes out of the spin animation before he gets into it. Things like that, I think can be, you know, really helpful, just kind of locking down some of those dive heroes.
Excellent rundown. Very much appreciate it, and good luck to your team and yourself and the rest of the tournament there as CCL comes to a close. Everyone watching here on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell for more Here's the Storm content, and learn to play content. I'll see you all soon.